Today, we will talk about Jesus. More specifically, 5 facts about Jesus that you probably didn't know. We all know the story of Jesus Christ, God's Son who came to earth to save us from our sins. But even though his life was only 2,000 years ago, surprisingly little is known about him outside the Bible. So today, we'll take a look at some of the more interesting historical tidbits about Jesus. Ready? Let's get into it. Fact number 1. Mary was not a virgin when she gave birth to Jesus. It is commonly believed by many Christians that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a virgin when she gave birth to him. This belief is based on the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, which both tell the story of an angel appearing to Mary and informing her that she will conceive and give birth to a son who will be called Jesus. However, this belief is not supported by any other historical or archaeological evidence. In fact, the Catholic Encyclopedia explicitly states that there is no biblical or historical evidence to support the claim that Mary was a virgin when she gave birth to Jesus. The idea of Mary's virginity likely originated from a misunderstanding of Isaiah 7:14, in which the prophet Isaiah foretold the birth of a child from a virgin, which in Latin is Virgo. However, the word Virgo simply means young woman or girl, not necessarily a virgin. This misconception about Mary's virginity has led to numerous artistic depictions of her as a young, innocent girl, which is not accurate based on the available historical and archaeological evidence. Fact number 2. Jesus was not born on December. The exact date of Jesus' birth is not known, as there is no record of it in the Bible or any other historical documents from that time period. The belief that Jesus was born on December is based solely on tradition and speculation. In fact, the earliest Christian writers did not associate Jesus' birth with December at all. The idea that Jesus was born on December began to emerge in the 4th century AD, possibly influenced by the Roman celebration of Saturnalia, a festival held in honor of the Roman god Saturn, which took place from December 17th to 23. Another theory suggests that the date was chosen to coincide with the winter solstice, which occurs on December 21st. This may have been an attempt to Christianize the pagan celebration of the solstice, making it more acceptable for Christians to participate in the festivities. Additionally, some scholars believe that the date was selected to align with the traditional date of the Annunciation, March, 9 months before Christmas. However, there is no historical or biblical basis for celebrating the Annunciation as occurring 9 months before Christmas. Ultimately, the choice of December as Jesus' birthday is a matter of tradition and belief rather than historical fact. Fact number 3. Jesus most likely had siblings. The notion that Jesus only had one brother named James is based on the Gospel of Mark, which refers to James, Hoseas, Judas, and Simon as Jesus' brothers. However, there are 2 problems with this account. Firstly, the word translated as brother in the Greek text could also mean cousin or uncle. Secondly, the Gospels were written many years after Jesus' death and were not intended to be a comprehensive historical account of his life. They were written for a Christian audience and primarily focused on Jesus' teachings and his role as the Messiah. As such, they do not provide a complete picture of Jesus' family relationships. Other historical sources, including the writings of Josephus Flavius and the Talmud, refer to the brothers of Jesus. Therefore, it is more likely that Jesus had multiple siblings, as was common in Jewish families of that time period. Additionally, early Christian tradition recognized several individuals as the sons of Mary, including James, Hoseas, Simon, and Judas. This suggests that these individuals were indeed related to Jesus and may have been his brothers. Fact number 4. Jesus was a carpenter. The belief that Jesus was a carpenter is based on the Gospel of Mark, which states that Jesus was the son of a carpenter, implying that he worked as a carpenter himself. However, This passage has been the subject of much debate and speculation. Some scholars argue that the word translated as carpenter in the Greek text actually refers to a more general term for a craftsman or artisan, rather than a specific profession. This is supported by the fact that the same word is used in other contexts to refer to a metalworker or a stonemason. Additionally, the Gospels were written many years after Jesus' death and were not intended to be a comprehensive historical account of his life. They were written for a Christian audience and primarily focused on Jesus' teachings and his role as the Messiah. As such, they do not provide a complete picture of Jesus' occupation or trade. Furthermore, the idea of Jesus as a carpenter may have been influenced by the image of King David, who was also described as a carpenter in the Bible. This may have been an attempt to portray Jesus as a descendant of David and fulfill the messianic prophecy that the Messiah would come from the house of David. And fact number 5, Jesus was executed by the Romans. The execution of Jesus is a significant event in Christian history, but it is often misunderstood. Many people believe that the Jewish religious leaders conspired to have Jesus crucified by the Romans, but this is not accurate. The primary source for the crucifixion of Jesus is the New Testament, specifically the 4 canonical Gospels. These texts were written from a Christian perspective, and their accounts of Jesus' crucifixion are often symbolic and theological rather than historical. One of the main sources for the crucifixion of Jesus is the Gospel of John, which states that Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, handed Jesus over to the Jews to be crucified. However, this statement should be interpreted in context. The term Jews in this passage refers specifically to the Jewish religious leaders, such as the Pharisees and Sadducees, who opposed Jesus' teachings and wanted him dead. Pontius Pilate, on the other hand, was a Roman official who had the authority to crucify Jesus as a Roman citizen. The idea that the Jewish people as a whole were responsible for Jesus' death is a common anti-Semitic trope that has led to persecution and violence against Jews throughout history. It is important to note that the Jewish people as a whole did not have the power to crucify someone during the time of Jesus. Only the Roman authorities had the legal authority to carry out executions. The Jewish religious leaders may have urged the Romans to crucify Jesus, but ultimately, it was the Romans who made the decision and carried out the execution. So what do you think of these facts about Jesus? Did you already know them, or were you surprised? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.